Hello guys, welcome back to Gaming Tidbits. And this time around we're going to talk about the NES. You know, it's amazing after the rise of YouTube and obviously retro game prices and attention's all out there, and all the recent games announced and found and preserved that were done lost. That it's amazing that there are still games now this day are still being found and put out there for preservation for people to try that never had to. And one of those games is actually a tie-in to the anime movie Happily Ever After, which ran into a lot of production problems, kept getting pushed back, a lot of things happened, and during that time, SoFal was actually making an NES tie-in game to the movie, but unfortunately, because the movie didn't come out until 1993, the people just didn't feel safe releasing that game because obviously Super Nintendo, was around, and it didn't make any sense. So what happened was eventually Happily Ever After was again put on the Super Nintendo and was released exclusively in North America the following year. Now Happily Ever After the movie bombed badly at theaters, so that's nothing to talk about. But the funny thing is that this game was featured in Nintendo Power, run up to the movie's release and all kinds of other stuff, but never was released. And again, back in those days, there were games, if you look back now, that were in there that never released, and there was no follow-up like today, obviously, with all the instant knowing of everything and every bit of news is news. It just disappeared, no one knew what happened. Well, a video preservation blog by the name of Nintendo Player recently posted an article about the game after having received a generous donation of the game's ROM from reader Sean McGee. Now again, this is while this is what you expect from obviously a child game, an educational kind of affair, this has actually been described as surprisingly a challenging platformer, somewhat like it has a typical music, but people kind of call it Castlevania like. And anyway, the Happily Ever After prototype is out there for all to download now. Again, the game was pretty close to being done, so it's not that horribly, you can't, wow, they really need to polish a lot of this. But they made it available, so now you can, download it and run on your EverDrive or your retro USB power pack or your emulator and try the game that was never released on the NES. And to see how it is. Maybe if you have the Super Nintendo version, you can see how different they are. But to me, it is interesting that these games were never released, and now they're being found and preserved. And I think it's cool to preserve video game history to me. It's cool to go, wow, this was a game never released on the NES. Let's see what it looks like. And let's be like, man, would this have been a game I'd have been into if it came out? Or would it have been like, you know what, I'm not interested in this. Because truthfully, back in the NES era, you bought games completely because of the cover. Or the back cover. Those couple gameplay pictures sold you on a video game or the description. That's how I bought Blaster Master on the NES. That's how I bought Ninja Gaiden on the NES. Was partially magazines and partially because the actual box sold me on the game. So, are you guys going to go try Happily Ever After NES prototype? I definitely want to try. I want to see what it's like. I want to see what would have been something I'd be interested in. Because again, platformers were kind of king back then when you talked to video games. So it'd be interesting to see if this would have been another great, platformer people would have gone after. Because let's be honest, if it was released in 1993, a lot of people probably would have got copies of it, and this game probably would have somehow ended up rare, and a lot of people would have been going after it, like maybe, not necessarily the extent of like Mighty Samson, but it would have been rare enough for people might have sought it out, because again, it's licensed and, Happily Ever After, and the year it came out. Anyway, love to hear your guys' opinions on it like always. I'll make another video soon. Later, guys.